Beyond the Gates spoilers tease that Vanessa McBride will reconcile what she is willing and not willing to sacrifice for the sake of her husband, Doug McBride. Beneath the polished surface of high-stakes real estate and quietly whispered rumors lies a woman driven by love, ambition, and determination. Vanessa knows the art of compromise, but she also understands the power of leverage. As Doug's mounting gambling debts threaten to unravel their carefully constructed life, Vanessa realizes she must step into a world she barely trusts, a world of neon lights, hushed corridors, and men who trust no netto protect her husband and their shared future. From the moment she first laid eyes on Joey Armstrong's name scrawled across the contract pages, Vanessa sensed duplicity. Poorly concealed clauses, vague references to shell corporations, and an inexplicable demand for personal guarantees pointed to the sort of financial trickery that would make most lawyers pause. But Vanessa was not most lawyers. She was the partner Doug had relied upon for every major deal they had closed. She'd built her reputation on clarity and candor. She refused to let her husband's legacy dissolve into someone else's hidden ledger. The meeting was arranged in Joey's flagship Casinoa's sprawling complex of black marble, gilded mirrors, and the rhythmic chime of slot machines. Vanessa arrived in a tailored charcoal suit that hugged her curves and spoke of both sophistication and steel. Doug had insisted she take an assistant, but Vanessa declined. This was her domain now, and she would not hide behind a second set of ears. Security guards led her through labyrinthine passageways until she stood outside an ornate door etched with the Armstrong family crest. She paused, taking a deep breath to steady the pulse beneath her collarbone. Tonight, she would extract truth from a man whose profession thrived on secrets. When Joey Armstrong finally appeared, he looked every bit the image of Midwestern confidence gone rogue. Dark hair slicked back, a casual smirk playing at the corners of his lips, and a bespoke tuxedo that had clearly been adjusted to accommodate his swagger. He extended a hand that felt like iron. "MS. McBride," he drawled, "I've heard you're quite formidable. I look forward to seeing if that reputation holds." Vanessa's lips curved into a polite smile as she settled into the high-backed leather chair opposite him. She produced a crisp folder of documents from her briefcase and placed them on the glass table between them. "Mr. Armstrong," she began, voice even, "I trust you understand why we're here. My husband's debts to you amount to $10 million, accrued under circumstances you know full well. I've reviewed the contract you presented." Joey leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Then you're aware the terms are non-negotiable." "Not so," Vanessa replied, flipping through pages. "These clauses referencing offshore accounts and fiduciary transfers are ambiguous at best, illegal at worst. You attempted to bury the true nature of this arrangement, money laundering, and I will not let Doug's legacy be exploited." Her tone was crisp but calm, each word measured. Joey's smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. "You dare accuse me of laundering," he hissed, voice dropping to a growl. "You're in my casino, MS. McBride. You'd be wise to watch your phrasing." Vanessa met his gaze unflinchingly. "I'm no stranger to high stakes. You'd have done better to present your proposal transparently. Instead, you attempted to bamboozle us with legal smoke and mirrors. I'm insulted by your assumptions and relieved you underestimated me." The air crackled as Joey's face reddened. He rose abruptly, sending his chair clattering backward. "You think you can bully me?" he snarled. "I've built this empire on deals people like you wouldn't dare question." "I think," Vanessa said smoothly, rising as well, "that you assumed a woman couldn't lead negotiations, or that Doug would never let his wife handle his affairs. You miscalculated." She retrieved her tablet from the briefcase and tapped a few keys, projecting Excel spreadsheets and annotated contract sections onto the frosted glass partition. Revenue projections, risk analyses, forensic accounting findings all laid bare in cold detail. Joey's composure snapped. He grabbed a whiskey decanter from the sideboard and threw a glass across the table, shattering it against the table's corner. Crystal shards skittered across the floor. "Enough," he thundered, arms tight at his sides. "Name your terms." Vanessa did not flinch as the nearest glass shard nicked her heel. She stepped over it, crossing her arms. "You'll erase Doug's entire debt," she declared. "And in exchange, we'll accept a stake 25% of gross profits from the property developments we're joining. No offshore accounts. All transfers routed through your publicly audited holding company, with quarterly financial statements subject to independent review." 25%? Joey repeated, incredulous. "You're asking for half my cut." "More," Vanessa corrected. 30%. "We take more risk if we're cleaning your books." "That's fair." Silence lodged in the room like a stone. Joey's nostrils flared, his fists clenched. He weighed his options, the explosive outcome of a failed negotiation versus handing over a massive share of profits. Finally, he exhaled, shoulders sagging. "Fine," he spat. "But don't expect me to be grateful." Vanessa nodded crisply. "You'll draft the amended agreement by sunrise." "I'll review it. And remember, Mr. Armstrong, no loose ends." She turned on her heel and strode toward the door, heels clicking sharply. Joey did not stop her. He merely watched, the lines around his eyes deepening. Outside, Vanessa paused in the hallway, heart pounding not from fear but triumph. She had outmaneuvered one of the most unscrupulous men in the Midwest's underground economy. Now came the moment of celebration, at least for appearances. She returned to the casino floor, where the lights glowed like 1,000 stars, and accepted Joey's invitation to join him in a VIP lounge overlooking the glittering gaming hall. The lounge was a den of dark woods and plush leather, a private stage where power players basked in extravagance. Amid the subdued hum of whispered deals and the soft clink of ice against crystal, Vanessa and Joey toasted their agreement with aged bourbon. The amber liquid glowed in their glasses, a promise of wealth to come. Joey attempted a half-hearted compliment, "You're as ruthless as they say," but Vanessa let it slide into polite laughter. She allowed herself a moment to relish her victory, then redirected the conversation to logistical details, timelines, escrow accounts, staffing plans. As the night deepened, the VIP lounge emptied until only the two remained. In the dim light, Vanessa noted the faint tremor in Joey's hand as he poured another round. She shifted in her seat, offering him a slow, deliberate smile. "You know," she murmured, "for someone who prides himself on discretion, you're hardly subtle." Joey's gaze darkened, and he leaned in. "Subtlety isn't profitable," he whispered. "But charm that can be useful." He reached out to brush a strand of hair from her cheek. Vanessa held his eyes for a heartbeat longer than necessary, planting a seed of confusion. Then she withdrew, straightening her posture. "Let's call it a night," she said casually, gathering her purse. Joey stood as well, stepping so close that Vanessa felt the heat of his body. "Wait," he demanded. "You're going to leave so soon after closing the deal?" His voice quivered with unspoken desire and wounded pride. Vanessa met his hunger with cool detachment. "I have other obligations." She turned on her heel again. Joey's strong hand gripped her wrist. "Don't play games," he snarled. "You think you can manipulate me twice in one night?" Vanessa pulled her wrist free, stamping her foot softly to assert her boundaries. "There was no manipulation," she replied, voice low but steady. "Just business. And an understanding that you'll deliver on your commitments." Joey's eyes narrowed as he studied her retreating silhouette. "You're going to regret underestimating me," he muttered. Vanessa paused at the lounge entrance, glancing back over her shoulder. "Regret is a luxury you can't afford," she said, then slipped into the hallway and disappeared into the casino's neon haze. The next morning, Vanessa reviewed the amended contract over breakfast in her glass-walled condominium overlooking the city's skyline. Every line was as she had demanded: debt forgiveness, a 30% stake, full financial transparency. She signed, scanning the document into the secure server she and Doug maintained for sensitive files. With a satisfied nod, she forwarded it to Joey's legal team along with an encrypted audio file, the recording she'd made of their late-night conversation, capturing Joey's own admission of money laundering procedures and his grudging acceptance of her terms. She knew her actions were risky. If the recording leaked, both she and Joey would face criminal charges. But Vanessa saw it as necessary insurance, leverage to ensure Joey honored the deal and genuine protection for Doug's name and assets. And if that leverage ever felt insufficient, she was prepared to hand the recording to the authorities herself, sacrificing her freedom to save her husband's legacy. All morning, Vanessa sat at her desk drafting a carefully worded memo to Doug, informing him of her actions without revealing the recording's existence. She anticipated his dismay. Doug had always been the moral compass, reluctant to cross legal lines. He would question her decision to negotiate with a known money launderer and to flirt with danger in Joey's private lounge. Yet Vanessa believed that once he saw the outcome, a clean slate and a new income stream, would understand. In the afternoon, as sunlight slanted through the blinds, Vanessa appeared at Doug's office unannounced. His face lit up at her entrance, but the warmth vanished the moment she sat across from him, her expression sober. "Doug," she began, placing the signed contract on his desk, "we have an agreement." His brow furrowed. "Everything's been arranged. Your debt is gone, and we now own 30% of Armstrong Enterprises' profits from this development." He leaned back, absorbing the magnitude. "Vanessa, this is incredible at how? You must have given something up." She allowed herself a small smile. "I gave them transparency and my patience. But I refuse to let your mistakes define us." She reached into her briefcase and withdrew a small black device. Doug's gaze flickered to it. "This," Vanessa said quietly, "is a recording of my conversation with Joey, proof of all terms discussed, including his admission of laundering. I'm keeping it as insurance." Doug's eyes widened, shock eclipsing gratitude. "Insurance? Vanessa, you can't." She held up a hand. "I can. And I will, if necessary. I'd rather go down with you by my side than watch our future collapse because someone else's greed eclipsed our integrity." Doug reached for her hand, voice trembling. "I don't want you to sacrifice yourself for me." Vanessa's gaze was unwavering. "I already have. I negotiated the entire deal, insulted a criminal, flirted with his anger, and recorded him all to protect you. That's sacrifice." She leaned forward, pressing his hand. "I'm willing to face whatever comes for the sake of our family." Doug swallowed hard, tears glistening. "I love you," he whispered. "But promise me you won't go to jail." Vanessa smiled, a fierce curve of determination. "I promise to do everything in my power to keep us out of jail. But if push comes to shove, I will not hesitate." Their embrace was both triumphant and tremulous, a union forged in adversity. Outside the office, the city's pulse thrummed on, unaware that one woman had outplayed danger to secure her husband's future. Vanessa knew the storm was far from over. Joey Armstrong would not forget her boldness, and Doug's relief might soon curdle into fear once he fully grasped her gambit. Yet in that shared moment, they stood together, bound by love and the unshakable conviction that some sacrifices were worth every risk. And so Vanessa McBride's crusade continued. She had won the first battle, debt erased, profits secured, leverage in hand. But darker currents ran beneath the neon surface of Armstrong's empire. Vanessa sensed the coming turbulence, Joey's revenge, Doug's moral turmoil, and the hidden dangers of playing both sides of the law. With unwavering resolve, she prepared for the next phase of her plan. She would press forward, unafraid of what lay beyond the gates. Vanessa McBride stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of her penthouse, the city awakening below her like a living mosaic of possibility and peril. Barely a day had passed since she'd outmaneuvered Joey Armstrong in that high-stakes negotiation, secured Doug's financial future, and recorded Joey's own confession of illicit laundering. Now she and Doug sat together in their home office, drafting a crisis management plan with grim determination. They mapped out contingency funds hidden offshore but accessible at a moment's notice, agreed to retain Elena Rosen, former federal prosecutor turned white-collar defense attorney, to shield them legally, and prepared Doug's public mea culpa, knowing that owning his gambling problem with humility might be their only path through the coming storm. Joey Armstrong, meanwhile, brooded in the subterranean luxury of his casino's private study. Every replay of that incriminating audio sent a fresh jolt of fury through him. He summoned Rafael Dominguez, his lieutenant known for solving problems by any means necessary, and ordered him to uncover every weakness in Vanessa's world, her law firm's financial ledgers, her marriage's fragile trust, Doug's shaky reputation, and to retrieve or destroy that recording at any cost. With cold efficiency, Rafael slipped into the shadows, beginning a campaign of subtle intimidation and rumor-mongering among casino staff and local tabloids. Back at the McBride estate, Vanessa and Doug brought their plan to life. Over rustling printouts and guarded phone calls, they secured joint escrow terms for the development funds, ensuring Joey could not move a single dollar without their countersignatures. In a sleek Midtown law office, Elena Rosen mapped out a private mediation strategy that leveraged the recording not as evidence of wrongdoing, but as a threat to protect Doug's and Vanessa's interests. Vanessa left that meeting with a flicker of hope. They could force Armstrong Enterprises into cooperation without igniting a firestorm. But Joey would not be so easily tamed. Within hours, whispers began to swirl. Vanessa was embezzling from her own firm. Doug was on the verge of yet another financial collapse. Rumors leaked of internal audits and potential malpractice investigations. Vanessa learned of these attacks through a discreet phone call from her publicist, who urged her to reclaim the narrative before tabloids could run wild. Unfazed, Vanessa agreed to a sit-down interview with a respected business magazine. 2 days later, she appeared in a crisply tailored navy blazer, speaking with calm authority about her strategic vision, acknowledging mistakes and detailing the McBride's unwavering commitment to transparency. Her words cut through the gossip like a knife, restoring confidence among their investors and allies. Joey responded by leaking an edited soundbite from Vanessa's own recordinga snippet that, ripped from context, suggested extortion and conspiracy. The clip went viral overnight. Financial commentators debated whether Vanessa's tactics had crossed legal lines, and several institutional partners hesitated at the threshold of their next funding round. Doug found her late in the study, crumpled and frightened, convinced that her bold gambit had triggered a disastrous backlash. Vanessa listened to his trembling voice and then laid out her counterstrike. A cybersecurity forensic team would trace the leak, she would subpoena the full recording for context, and Elena Rosen would file a defamation suit against Armstrong Enterprises. Joey's move, she reminded Doug, was a provocation, one that guaranteed their united response would be swift and decisive. True to plan, the McBride's legal team issued a cease and desist demanding Joey stop any further leaks under threat of litigation and regulatory referral. Simultaneously, their cyber experts traced the leak to a disgruntled mid-level Armstrong accountant who was quietly dismissed and offered immunity in exchange for returning the full audio. This maneuver regained control of the narrative even as Joey fumed behind the scenes. To seal their victory, Vanessa and Doug hosted a private dinner for key investors and city officials, toasting the project's future and showcasing a united front. The subdued applause that filled the candlelit dining room signaled that trust in the McBrides had not only survived, but grown stronger under pressure. At home that night, as the city lights glittered like distant stars, Vanessa and Doug held each other, exhaustion and triumph mingling in their embrace. They knew Joey Armstrong would regroup, and that new threats, regulatory audits, rival developers, opportunistic lawyers would emerge. Yet in that quiet moment, they drew strength from their partnership, bound by shared risk and mutual devotion. Vanessa's bold gambit had secured them this respite, but the game was far from over. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay beyond the gates of the world they had fought so fiercely to protect.